We turn 1 year old and get ready for our first full MLB season. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here, bringing you baseball along with the dog Jeff Healy, and of course on our 1 year anniversary. You didn't think there was any way we were going to fail to have Jerry Milani roped into this sucker. It's Joe Rizzo, and we are happy because we made it through a year. In fact, we've now made it through 369 days of this because our 1 year anniversary did occur 4 days ago on March 26th when we did the episode called Opening Day. Actually, that wasn't a we, that was just a me back then. And shortly thereafter, Jerry graced our airwaves, and then the dog followed soon thereafter. And now Jerry's he's like a third co-host / guest, and Dawg is solidly entrenched as a co-host, something that we couldn't have any of us imagined a year and change ago. We're going to tell you the story about how we got here. Before we do that, we're going to tell you that fmsgraphics.com is a family owned and operated business for a very long time, about 50 years of time. And you can get all of your printing and promotional needs there. So go to fmsgraphics.com, fmsgraphics.com, all your printing and promotional needs. And as we get back into the swing of things here, as life starts to look a little bit normal, or whatever the new normal is, you're going to need some of that stuff to get the word out about your printing and promotional stuff. So check them out there. Tonight, we're going to talk about year one. We're going to talk about the shortstop carousel going in the majors, and we're going to talk about some of the injuries that happened. Also, we haven't talked about it for a few weeks, but the Stratomatic Elite Media Experts League finals are coming up. I don't know if you call it a World Series, a final, or whatever it is, but that'll be myself representing the Cardinals of the first decade of the millennium against Joe Lemaire's Red Sox. And Joe Lemaire will be joining us next week after the finals have been completed. So win or lose, because it's baseball, there's not going to be a draw. Win or lose, Joe will be on either to celebrate or to have me celebrate the victory. He's listed in Vegas as a -210 favorite, pretty substantial favorite. And if you want to take me with the Cardinals, we're plus 175. I don't know. I just made that up off the top of my head, but I think it sounds actually pretty good. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about TV and spring training and all that other stuff. But as we like to do, we bring in our veteran emeritus, Jeff the Dog Healy, to give us a very special veteran of the day. Dog?
All right, Briz, and happy anniversary. Forgot to get you a card, but that's just kind of like the way that's kind of the way I do it. So veteran of the day, they're always special, right? This one's pretty cool. We're finishing off Women's History Month. Right, so that's kind of the theme that we've had going on at Diamond Diehards this month. So our veteran of the day is the only female Medal of Honor recipient in U.S. history. So it is Dr. Mary Walker. She was also the first female U.S. Army surgeon serving in the Civil War. She was captured in April 1864 by helping a Confederate doctor, I believe, treat a Confederate soldier. She was held for 4 months as a prisoner of war, which is pretty rough back then, especially at that time of the war. Was released in August, and later came back and rejoined the Army a month later and finished out the rest of the way. So once again, our Veterans Day is Dr. Mary Walker, the first female Medal of Honor first female and only Medal of Honor recipient in U.S. history.
Pretty amazing, and we've done. We did a lot of African American veterans during February during Black History Month. We've done I think exclusively women, right, for this month for Women's Month, and we've had some great guests, including Missy Coombs, my cousin. Who knew? Right? She's a Rizzo, so it's been.
Oh, we had Scott's father.
And we did have. That's right.
That was an unbelievable
one
of the best veteran of the days, and I had to miss that one.
I know you had to miss that one. That's
Frozen Chosen. That's a remarkable.
Bad job by you.
That was bad job by me.
Okay, So Jerry, I'm going to bring you in now. He's wearing the Stratomatic hat. You gotta love it. Could touch. For those of you watching on the live stream, or if you're watching, I think we're live streaming to a few places, as producer Xavier Rizzo can tell us and confirm. Xav, we got thumbs up on Facebook group, Facebook page, and YouTube. I think we found a little easier way to do this, and next show I think we'll add Periscope / Twitter and Twitch back. So I think we're making inroads there. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that a little over a year ago, when this whole thing was coming upon us with COVID, I got a text or a call or something from Jerry. And it was like, hey, I'm doing stuff with Stratomatic and they're going to be doing a simulation of the season. You want to do a podcast? Jerry, take it away.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it worked out. We were just exploring different avenues to do things with Stratomatic for publicity. And one idea we batted around was there's somebody who might want to kind of follow this season with a podcast. And I said, I know somebody who likes baseball and likes Stratomatic and likes podcasting. And so my first call was Riz. And, a few days later, I think you launched. I mean, it was pretty much you kind of got it going right away and grew into it. So it worked for them. I mean, we followed the season. You and Dawg did, started out following the season really closely and then kind of just, worked it in as you were doing other baseball stuff. And I know that the Stratomatic people love you guys, which is great. And tomorrow when I have my meeting with them, they're gonna hear about this tonight too. So that'll be fun.
Hi guys and girls from Strat. We do love you. We love you so much. I have my Stratomatic game right behind me. I was thinking that I depending on what happens in the finals, that I might do something cool with that, but we'll have to see. But yeah, that's how it happened. I mean, it was that quick. Like the hardest thing for me was just setting up maybe like some of the social media accounts and things like that, and trying to help build out the footprint a little bit. And for the unindoctrinated, basically what I did for the first, I think it was almost 2 weeks of the show, was each day I took the results and I lived them like they were real games. And then I talked about them and, as if I was imagining recapping some of these games and great performances and things like that. And if you go back to the beginning show titles, you'll see it's like it looks like we're talking about guys who had great days in the season, but the season wasn't actually happening. And what it evolved into quickly was talk about some of the stuff that we've been through. As if people don't know, the three of us have been friends for greater than 30, pretty much 35 years at this point. After our time at Fordham, I know none of us look that old except for Dawg when he puts his head down and we can see his hair. But if he looks up, and we can't see it,
that's not right.
He gets 10 years younger.
It's here forever though.
I know.
And it's beautiful.
Why do you think I'm wearing a hat?
So, we leveraged those relationships and we were all on air at WFUV together at different times. Now, Jerry wasn't a regular on WFUV, but he was a regular guest of ours. So it's even that part is similar.
That is true.
When Jerry was, doing sports information for the baseball team, we would have spots on One-on-One, New York's longest running sports call and telephone talk show. I know it sounds repetitive, but it still comes out, 30 something years later, boom, like I just said it yesterday. And
almost like you're calling the 2-Ram hotline.
That was
watching an Agbonkpolo play basketball.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
happening as
that is true.
As we speak. Yeah.
Son of Io.
Yeah. That's how this thing starts. And it morphs into, hey, I'm kind of bored just doing shows myself. Dawg, why don't you jump on? And then Dawg just never jumped off after that. and
As
And,
as Dawg said, sign off. I'll be back.
and of course, Jerry like had shit to do, so he wasn't. I can't just keep hitting him up to come on every show because he's doing all this great stuff for Wizard World. By the way, you guys got to check out Wizard World. They do so much good stuff, and if you're just really sports oriented, Jerry even gets these amazing guests with sports. Doc Gooden and Wade Boggs. I mean, that was great. I was eating it up. So actually, it's wizardworldvirtual.com, Jerry, right?
Yeah, we're mixing in authors of books, all kinds of things. So a lot of fans who loves pop culture also love sports and vice versa. So there's probably something there. We're going to be kicking off a new branch of them soon. We're doing series now. We're in the middle of a horror series right now. So if you like horror movies, you can just go to wizardworld.com and everything is right there. And it leads you to the virtual and leads you to the vault and all that. So it's been really successful. It's been the same year that you guys have been doing this. We've been doing the Wizard World virtual shows where we can't go and travel around and do them live. So it's been parallel construction here, Diamond Diehards and Wizard World Virtual.
There you go. I mean, it's amazing, Jerry. Just I mean, even in my work in asset management and stuff, we're all trying to figure out what work 2.0 is, and I think that's part of it is actually I was kind of intrigued with Diamond Diehards and stuff is, just how you mix in like the traditional and the new. And I said, I think, it's you guys kind of took lemons and instead of getting lemonade, I mean, you got even better.
Yeah, the word hybrid is kind of the big buzzword right now, but it's true. I think as events move forward, we've learned how to do things remotely that you would never have done that way before. And that's in all aspects of work, whether it's working at home from your desk or the kinds of events. I did a press conference this past weekend. We were physically in Las Vegas. It was my first road trip in a year. And we had a press conference going on there with a limited number of people, but I had a Zoom chat going at the same time. And the rest of the press were in the Zoom chat. So when they asked a question to someone locally who's in there, they said, "Oh, question. Now we have one from our remote location." They didn't want to say Zoom because it's a brand name. "We have a remote caller." And I would say, "Okay, the next remote question is coming from, John Smith from USA Today." And then they had it hooked up. So John asked his question. The person answered the question. We went on to the next one. So it's that hybrid. And we're thinking that conventions might be the same way, where people are in attendance and there's also a Zoom chat going, and people are in the Zoom chat have the opportunity to ask questions. So I think, you're right. We've learned new ways a year later to do things, and some of them are going to stay even when we can go back.
Yep.
Yeah, I was talking to Scott Bradley about that last week, and listen, we're Jersey guys. He's in Princeton. This is like something that we could easily do. I could pick up the computer, go down there. It's a little over an hour drive, probably a little less for Dawg, and do a show like that in person, like right at their at their office, at their stadium, whatever it is. And I'd like to do that. And he said, "Well, but for now, this works because it made it possible for us to do it. And there's no reason not to do that." Right. So what I'd love to be able to get back to is, now listen, Jerry goes back a long way with any podcast that I've done. He's responsible for the MMA podcast that still goes on, although albeit not as frequently as I'd like to do it, but Rear Naked Choke Radio, go check that out if you're checking this out. Back in the day, Jerry worked for a company called the International Fight League, and he shuffled me in with the podcast, and we became the unofficial official show, or the official unofficial show of the IFL. And that led to this, preponderance of that podcast going since like 2007. But that show was, had a live streaming element with video. I mean, we were going places in 2007 and doing live streaming video when before even Joe Rogan was doing it, believe it or not. So, I'd like to be able to get back to some of that with this show. I mean, that would be exciting. It doesn't have to be all the time. It could be one-offs here and there, but for something like going down to Princeton, I mean, wouldn't that be great? Or just going to one of the minor league ballparks or even a major league ballpark at some point.
Or college, Caldwell University, for example.
Why not? Why not? It's a baseball field.
There's summer leagues. The coach at Caldwell, he runs a summer league as well, and I did some work in the summer with them. Hopefully those open up where fans can go to games. Right now, the league that Caldwell's in doesn't allow any fans, but just today, New York opened up more for outdoor events, and not the Caldwell's league, but the other league, the East Coast Conference, is leaving it up to their schools. I mean, they have schools in Rochester and, Long Island. So there's a very different situations, but they're leaving it up to schools as to whether they're going to allow, fans to come in, which would mean you'd have to be allowing media as well and being able to do something like that at a venue. You can go to Yogi Berra Stadium and do something from the press box or from the seating. That would be pretty neat to do your broadcast from there.
Yeah, I mean, there's factors that are involved, like how good's the Wi-Fi, right? And is it going to rain? There's stuff like that's involved. So it can make planning a little bit dicey. But when you're lean and mean and you have these setups, you can kind of do it. I mean, you could do it even with a couple of phones there these days. So you might not have to worry about some of that stuff. So we look forward to that. So guys, what I want to know from you, and Dawg, we could start with you, is your mindset coming into that. I mean, you could have certainly had no earthly idea that it was going to morph into this. I mean, unless you had it in the back of your head, like, hey, this is a pretty good idea. I think I might be able to jump in there and take a couple hacks. I just don't think so, but you tell me.
Yeah, I was a little busy with the day job. I'll be honest. Back then, when I cover energy and pipelines and utilities and all that for an insurance company, and last March. So not only did you have COVID coming in and destroying the market and everything else, at least at that point early on, but in oil and gas as well, that OPEC decided it would start a price war right as like demand is going to drop 10 or 15% around the world. So, fast forward, crude oil goes down to minus $37 a barrel. Fill up your pool if you could later on in the spring. So we were kind of busy with the day job, but I was just intrigued. And obviously, anytime Riz calls, I'm there. I think it's just a fascinating product out there and service that we're providing to people. I kind of liked. It's funny. I talked a little bit about joining Team Rubicon earlier today for something for work, and it was almost kind of so similar. Like you just wanted to go out and do something at that time, and just contribute to something and anything. And we sort of talked about at the time at the beginning of the show, right? Of just like, we're taking the virtual strat stuff and we're just talking about it, and we're having a reason to get together and talk to people, other than what have you heard? What's this? What's the latest this? What's the latest that? We got to have fun with, San Diego's somehow like playing Colorado again, and like they're whooping up on them, and just having giggles with it and on that. And it really sort of touched a chord to me. And it was a great way to get your mind off it for a little while and reconnect with friends, right? And that was before we all got used to doing all the Zooms and everything else like that. Now it's more commonplace.
And how about this? It's probably not even possible that we do this and get this far without the pandemic happening, right? Like, because first of all, I don't think that I would have just started a baseball podcast for that, right? Like, except, unless Jerry had something else going on, which is always a distinct possibility that it would have roped me into something somehow, some way. Yeah, I mean, he ropes me in, but it's like here. There's a visual. Hey, twist my arm, and he starts turning. I'm like, yeah, I'm in. All
right, no, tough.
Yeah. So, but Dawg, like, I mean, without this sort of new world order happening here, and I know I'm kind of borrowing that from like a completely, like I'm totally bastardizing like what that phrase means for our little purposes here, but like without this process of this world these days, you're never finding the time, even once a month probably, to do this, let alone once, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times a week we've done it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'd be running around getting the kids back and forth to baseball and stuff, right? I mean, that's normally eats up a tremendous amount of time for us with all the kids, and same situation. So yeah, it was just a unique time that you got to have a pause. You're here, and if you wanted to have a creative outlet, you had to figure out how to do it within your 4 walls. And like I said, you did all the work. as I tell everybody, I'm a co-host of a podcast, which means I go up and talk, and Riz literally does all the work on the entire show.
I turn the mic on, I turn the video on, and I talk about
exactly. Like I do, but I got a ring light. That was my big giving to Diamond Diehards here. But you know, it's I said it's been great, and it's actually I think it's actually helped me for like my professional career as well, going in and you know, just being more comfortable talking on talking on the video, and just continuing to work your presentation skills and all the stuff they always talk and work with you on. You know, this is like sort of the perfect outlet for it, and you get to have fun with your buddies. So I mean, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. Well, by the way, if you're watching, which if you're listening, we thank you for that. And make sure you hit the, if you're on Spotify, hit the follow button. If you're on iTunes or, you know, most of the other services, hit that subscribe button. We really need that. And the numbers, by the way, have just gone up exponentially. There was a long time where they were just flat. They were just flat, like nothing. And then all of a sudden, the last like month or so, it was like pounding the rock, and the rock finally split. And things have really been on the move. But if you're watching on YouTube or on the Facebook page or on the Facebook community page, the Facebook group, that is, watch Jerry Milani's background. My background is static. It's the current Diamond Diehards logo, which we're working on. We've had Michael Holt, my pal, created a couple of potential new logos for us, so we're working on that with Debbie Rizzo as well. But you know, so that's static. My background is the Diehards logo. Dawg's is static as well. It's usually a baseball or City Field or Tom Seaver or something. Jerry's, I'm not even going to tell you. You go to the video and just find it and just watch his background change, because
I got some more coming. One of the things I like to do when I host the panels for Wizard World is to change my background. I have enough different backgrounds that if the guest starts talking about something, an episode or a particular actor, that I've got that there. And by little surprises, I'm going to put it in the background. You know, when we did any of the ones that, you know, that had multiple people in them, when I did $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman,
yeah,
and I had Lee Majors and I had Lindsay Wagner, we started talking about, you know, Richard Anderson. Boom, my Richard Anderson photo, you know, pops up in the back, and we talk about that. So that's kind of fun. One of the fun things about Zoom is to be able to use that virtual background and, you know, just have a little fun with it. And yeah, I've got some more boys there. We can look through them as they come.
We're not going to give it away. I'm like sending texts on the side. I'm hinting out on social media. Maybe we could have Xavier tweet that. We could say Xavier tweet something on the Diehards account, like watch at GB Pack Jerry's background right now, and maybe throw the YouTube link up there too.
And we got this one for Sarah now in the background. That's what we got.
Oh yeah. Well, and believe it, and that one, we're not going to mention what it is, but that one goes a long way in the Rizzo household, especially for my siblings. So
who's just chiming in here? Checking into the
Facebook
group.
There it is.
There you go.
There it is.
There you go.
My sister chiming in. Mike, Sarah, got to run, have fun. Let me tell you something. Mike Sarah's been this close to being on the show. We've talked about Mike Sarah. We've talked about Joe Sarah. We've talked about the Sarahs. I think they'd appreciate that background too. So all you Sarahs that are watching, and if you're not watching.
And we'd get Mike's favorite trivia question if we brought this one up.
Oh yeah, we would.
we'll let him give you that whenever he's on the show.
We will. And there's okay.
If we have to go down to Princeton, and we have to get there in a half an hour,
we know who to call.
You know who we got to call.
Right.
Joe Sarah.
Top 10. The top 10 moment right there.
He can get anywhere in a half hour. Don't believe it? Oh, you better believe it. Okay. So that's one part of the year. Dawg, another big part of the 1 year. I feel like the thing that kind of brought you in fully as the co-host was the time that it was pretty early on, and we're almost on the 1 year anniversary of that, where I had COVID and I was sequestered in my bedroom, which is like of all the bedrooms in the world, like I'm lucky because I have everything there. I had a window to get out onto the roof. You know, if you've seen the the Riz on the roof photos. Those are those were memorable. And I'm lucky, thankfully, I had an easy experience with COVID, especially compared to, so many other people. Not to mention the people that didn't make it, but even people who had a rough time. I had 36 hours of mild symptoms, but especially at the time, it was last April of 2020, and there's so much mystery shrouded around it that I felt like it was important just to share the details of what I was going through. Even if it was mild, because there were so many people having such a range. There's people who had it at that time who weren't getting tested and never knew they had it until, months later, they might've gotten an antibody test and like, oh, positive, but I never had it. And tests were harder to come by. And I did get a test and it was positive, and I was surprised at it. But, you jumped into the, as we always like to say at when we were at WFUV, the A seat for that one. You were the A guy, and I felt like, I was being interviewed on my own podcast, and I used that as a vehicle to say, hey, look, I can't, it's too hard for me to respond to like everybody who wants to know every detail, but here, check this out. And still to this day, that's actually the most downloaded podcast that we have had for a year. And at the time it was audio only. But was that, was that the thing maybe, Dawg, that pushed you over the top and said, hey, I think I want to be in this, I think I'm going to squirrel out more time to do this?
Yeah, I mean that was an emotional time. We had situations going on with our friends and stuff as well. We were all concerned. I mean, we thought that was good, whatever else, but and again, sort of like in the spirit of kind of giving back too. I mean, I remember at the time, I tend to follow stuff pretty close. I have a Bloomberg machine. I get bombarded with news all day, et cetera, CNBC on all that. But you had done a lot of, on the ground nugging around from your extended family over in Italy, who were experiencing stuff ahead of we were, and just all the information that you had at the time. I mean, it was really, it was great. I think it was a real, public service for those who tuned in and listened to it. That it was good. It was sort of frank talk of how you're feeling and thoughts and things like that, and you obviously had family situations going on there as well, and how do you deal with that, and sort of the the weird sense of you're kind of powerless in your own house, right? You don't want to go in and infect anyone else, but how do you kind of deal with it and stay together mentally and all that. And yeah, it was from that point on, I was like, this is just something we should keep on going.
Jerry,
plus Riz didn't say no.
Yeah, Jerry, you were you were involved in a lot of those early episodes too. Did you see this thing kind of taking flight and taking this turn in direction based on what we were strategizing early on, like beforehand?
Yeah, I mean, I know it started with Strat, and that was the reason for kind of getting it going. But just like at Strat, they were hopeful sooner than later that baseball would get back, because as great as it was to be providing a daily feed that you guys were using, but also the San Francisco Chronicle was running it every day as agate type, as if, on the front page and the bottom, as if that was the score for the day for the A's and the Giants. There was Cincinnati paper was running it. There was papers all over the country, 12 or 15 pretty consistently using it. And that part was great. But at some point, Stratomatic needs there to be product for 2021 for the 2020 season. So they didn't want the season to be off, even though in a way it was helping them, and their numbers were really good for sales, and people were kind of just that they were returning to baseball cards, and they were returning to other things that they may have neglected when you're sitting at home, and now you have that time. Stratomatic was one of those things, both the cards and the computer games. But as great as that was for Stratomatic in that way, they needed the season to kind of come back. And I think it's the same thing. It's like you can do the Stratomatic simulation, for so long, but then eventually there's going to be a real season to talk about. And I think when the prospect of the real season was coming, and you knew we had a date that they were going to start, and even to talk about the negotiations to get it started, was an interesting enough topic that you could start branching off. And then all of a sudden you've got, a full-fledged podcast with real baseball, mixed with the excitement that we have for Strat that we've been playing. You talk about how we know each other 35 years. We've been playing Strat almost that long together. So that's what kind of, we have our Strat stories.
Are we that old?
If we are,
I haven't worked out those numbers.
I sometimes look, I go,
some of you even older.
1998. That's 1998. That's 15 years ago. No, it's not. It's more. It's more than that.
I like that. Do we have closed captioning going tonight? Is that a new feature for us?
Where are you seeing it?
On the Facebook majiggy.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Facebook feed.
Set that as a default.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised. I'm amazed if they actually can figure out what I'm saying. That would be fantastic.
No, I mean, and people have the captioning is better than ever. My dad was a court reporter. That was his job for 40 years. He was a court reporter in the state and various courts in New York State. And the threat was always, well, it's just going to be taken over by the technology. The technology is as good as it's ever been, obviously. I mean, now without even needing a writer to capture it, you have a pretty good feel, and I have some folks I know who, are 90 to 95% deaf, and they're able to follow, for example, the Wizard World panels, even though they're just running over Zoom and over Twitch and Facebook, they're able to follow them. So that technology has certainly made a difference and helped. And it's neat that you have it now, Joe. Good job, Riz.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. It's not on my. Maybe Xavier Rizzo, producer, could show me.
I know on YouTube you can set it that way, and I think on Facebook as well.
Dawg, is it on the Diamond Diehards community?
Yes.
Group, or is it on? Oh, okay. So maybe I get
Facebook. It's streaming over my lovely face. So we'll see.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah. So it works out for everybody.
You got the Bobby Brady box tonight, so
Doug. So you just call me Doug in this. That's great.
Oh.
This is gonna be kind of addicting. I'll be honest. I can fire that up later.
What did Riz say? What did Riz say 12 seconds ago? Oh, there. Oh, producer Xavier is showing it to me off screen. Yeah, and it got the word Doug right when you said it. So it's for everyone named Doug. Doug. Hey, did you guys ever play the video game Dig Dug? Let's see if I get that right. So, all right.
You got me looking. Is there
anything else that I missed from the year? I mean, I think that
torture me on Friday nights.
Oh,
Friday Night Follies with the Mets collapsing every Friday night.
That was wonderful when we had
except for one time,
and it was the Yankees of all times, right?
That was against the Yankees.
It was against the Yankees. So
come back.
All right, we started out like a house of fire, and it had a lot to do with that COVID episode that got a lot of attention, and it wasn't really it was good for the show, I guess, but it wasn't. It was sort of like an unintended consequence. Like basically, I was kind of using the episode so I could just tell other people my story, like even people in my extended family or some friends or people on Facebook who I can't tell you, like when I posted a status, everybody's like, oh my God, tell me about every detail about what you're going through every day, and it would pop up weeks later, and I'd be like, look, anything you want to know, this is like when it happened, how it happened, and I was in the middle of it, and it's got every detail there. And like I said, that gained us some momentum as an unintended consequence. And after that, we followed up and we started getting guests. I got Ray Montgomery, our old pal from Fordham, who at the time was the special assistant to GM David Stearns in Milwaukee, and has now moved on to the Anaheim Angels front office, and Mike Puma, who we just had on again for the second time. And those shows started to do really well early on. Ran into a little personal skid here with things that were going on inside the Rizzo house, and had to just back off the throttle a bit. Missed shows for about a month and a half, and then Dawg, by the time we jumped back in July, I mean, any of the momentum that we built up was completely gone. I mean, it was like starting from zero. and it's taken us a while to build it back up. And now we've built it to that and exceeded the point where we were before. But a lot of that buildup had to do with instead of like imagining what the strat games were, we now had real games to talk about. And we did things like, I felt like we were going Tuesday Night Live a lot of times, but Friday Night Live, that was like our spot. And there were games on, MLB package. I'm streaming them over here. Dog's watching the TV in the background. And I mean, we just had a blast doing that. And I think we gained some traction. I think we gained our format a little bit from that.
Yep.
And, we definitely gained some traction. Even if a lot of people weren't hitting those shows at the time, I think as they started to hit the shows later that have come more recently, they go back and listen to some of those shows. Like when we were on the air when the Dodgers won the World Series, right?
Yep.
I mean, that was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Very cool. That was very cool.
So, I mean, I know a lot of people probably had other stuff to do, but even listening back to that the next day, and even listening, what I think is interesting is when you listen to some of those shows where you're reacting live, even if you know the result of what happened, there's still kind of like a cool element to it. And I know like producer Xavier Rizzo's generation, one of the things that's very popular, extremely popular among his generation is the reaction videos. The reaction videos of like anything, of like, some 27-year-old guy, who's listened to rap his whole life, listening to like Freebird and like freaking out. Like those videos are really cool, it's really interesting stuff, the way that it's all panned out,
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of pain of the dog on there to kind of get it through. Seemed like the Mets were always adding the emotion on there for us of the Friday night collapses. But yeah, I mean, the playoffs, I remember, were a great one. That's when we started to try and figure out, do you go for the beginning game or the end of the game or whatnot, and we sort of gravitated towards the end of the game. Post a little happy hour, then a little bit after, and then you start the show. So the dog was all fired up coming in there. But I think that was a lot of fun. Again, sort of like the building of the atmosphere, right? And the extended family we have out there. So that set a good stage for it. And this should be great. I mean, we have a full season we can actually work with now on that, and a couple of good local teams that are going to be gunning for it. So it's it shapes up, I think, hopefully really well for us going forward.
Speaking of extended family, where is Uncle Paul? Where is Uncle Paul?
He was chiming. He's on Facebook somewhere. He's trolling around. I don't know why it's not in the comments here yet.
Well, he's gonna say, "Come on, guys, you gotta like alert me."
I don't know.
And we
had something about audio glitches, which I don't know. I'm not sure what that is.
He
upgrade
he did
Wi-Fi.
do we did this like sort of impromptu because we've built out the live streams to more platforms tonight, and we'll continue to do that. Of course, it would have been nice if I hit record like before the first 37 minutes of the show. So I'm going to pay the price for that one, trying to rip the audio off of the stuff that at least we're streaming at, so it's existing somewhere. And I think producers
save it on your YouTube.
Do that.
Save the whole thing.
Xavier, you got to text me, or you got to go on text there, because I can't hear what you're saying. Say it.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there. Okay. It already will be on YouTube. We could download the MP4 from there. Okay. Yeah, okay. Good. We could do that. That's why he's the best producer in the country, or at least in the room.
At least the household. Yes.
At least in the room. Hey, he stepped up to do it. I can't. I mean, I how could I fault that? It's now it becomes a father-son time thing that we do this. And of course, he's already on break now. He doesn't have to be back to school for a couple of weeks here, because he's a BC Crusader, and they go to school like 4 days a week.
Breaking news: Twitter friend Lillian made the JV team.
Oh, really?
Good job. Good job, Lillian.
Wow, that just come up, Dog? I
just came across the tweeter.
Okay, so that's a good. Now this is maybe a little bit out of Jerry's realm, but we have been keeping tabs on a young lady who plays baseball. I believe she's in Connecticut. She's a big Twitter follower of us. She's been a big supporter of the show, and we're a big fan of hers. And her name is Lillian Martineau. And she's been going through her baseball journey. You know what, Dawg? I think it was really interesting that what she tweeted the other day was that, when she was in 7th grade, she had, them tell her, don't bother going out for baseball. And, like, you're a girl, like, just don't even bother. And,
Flashback,
that stoked a lot of fires for people, like, and here she is, I'm like, never have so many old people been pulling for a kid to make, a high school team like that. It's just that we've never met her or anything like that. So good for you, Lily. Our pal Missy Coombs, has really even like shown a brighter light on it for us. Because she was even
a mentor for you,
a mentor, a pioneer of women playing baseball, and it's opened a lot of eyes that women don't just have to like baseball. We know there's many great female baseball fans over the years. We know there's a female GM for the Marlins, Kim Eng, and we know there's a lot of female broadcasters. But to see more female players is really great. It's encouraging. And for Lily to have tried out for her high school team and made it on the JV level, it's great. It's tremendous. We celebrate you, Lily. We celebrate you. Great job. Good job on a Dawg on the breaking news.
Yeah,
there.
Sometimes we try and help.
Yeah, you get that. What I feel like. Well, I mean, she probably broke it on her Twitter feed, but I feel like we're the first outlet to report it.
I think so. I think we're the first one to stream it.
Yeah,
I feel pretty good about that.
Dawg, you might have to pick up the link and fire it out there to her. Give her a mention, on the retweet and say, yeah, we're talking about you.
You're asking a lot of the Dawg's social media expertise
Come
here,
on,
but I will give this a shot.
You jumped right into Twitter. You knew how to do it. You were on it.
All right, let's.
Yeah,
Dawg,
everything. You tweet on everything.
At Jeff Healy 8. Good. He's a good follow. Now we just
strange follow. half Diamond Diehards, half energy.
Let's call it an eclectic follow. It's
a very eclectic follow.
Yeah. You've got everything from
bimodal
energy to baseball to everything in between.
I follow Dawg. Good. It's a good follow. It's a weird follow. Weird follow. Good follow.
Don't know what he's gonna say.
Good follow. Just a weird follow.
What's with this roll call? You roll the dice. You don't roll call it.
Wow, that was a nice little aside there. I gotta write that down. Lily makes the JV. Good job, kid. Good job. I don't know if producer Xavier could figure out how to tweet that too. He could. Lillian Martineau, Xavier at Lily. Okay, speaking of stuff that happens on a baseball field, which we haven't talked about. Eloy Jimenez tried to rob a home run in spring training and tore the pectoral muscle off of his chest, and he's out for at least 5 months.
There's an injury I'm never going to have to worry about.
You think? Jerry, you might tear a pec putting your headphones on doing Caldwell basketball, or maybe football. I don't know, whatever, any of the sport. Volleyball. I know you did volleyball too. Got a lot of views on that volleyball stream. We know about that. So he's, the middle of the White Sox lineup is still really good without him, but that's a pretty big loss. I mean, he's a young player who already has a great bat and, an MVP level producer possibly, and he's gone basically for the season. So if the White Sox are somehow not in the mix of this thing, he probably won't even come back this season. If they're in the mix, they'll probably try to work him back, a la the Cubs with Kyle Schwarber a few years ago. And we saw how that worked out for the Cubbies. So I'm predicting it now, Dawg. I'm saying Eloy Jimenez makes a late season comeback and is inserted in in the playoffs and he leads the White Sox to the World Series title. I don't know. Just to copy. He's the right-handed Schwarber. That's what I'm going to say. Probably not going to happen. Kirby Yates.
Not a really deep team. They went from having, I think, a pretty good outfield, the White Sox, to now like they're not even. I don't even think it's even replacement level that goes out to left field now.
Well, at least he's not going to start running into Luis Robert in center field. So that's probably better for Robert's health. He's going to, instead of him just, colliding with him I think he collided with him like 4 times last year. And that was like in a 60-game season. Yeah. So maybe a little safer there, but I guess you have like Adam Eaton and a few other guys that look, they could always make a trade too, right? I mean, there's probably a lot of bats that are going to be there, especially in the outfield. You're not going to replace him, but you might be able to get somebody a little bit better or comparable. I mean, if they want Giancarlo Stanton, I think they could probably get him. I don't think they're gonna, but whatever. Kirby Yates, big, one of the big Blue Jays signings. Dawg and I had talked a lot about the Blue Jays in the offseason, especially when they ended up getting George Springer. And, he's now out for the year. So they miss out on the closer. That affects them significantly, possibly. I mean, they could still end up with a good closer, but that might be at the expense of somebody who would have been pitching like the 6th inning is now pitching the 7th. And, we could see how that effect could really scuttle a team that's, figuring to be in the middle of possibly the American League East race and certainly the wild card race. And even Springer, is going to miss a little time here at the beginning of the season with an injury. That was one of Dawg's concerns that we talked about. That was one of the reasons why I thought it was smart for the Mets to just pass on him when he didn't, come down to their price. So the Blue Jays paid a little more for him and they went out and they got Yates, and the season hasn't started. And one of the moves blew up on them. And the other one is not looking so great, like at least for the first few weeks of the season for them to get started. Jerry, like me, is a Yankee fan, and we got to see Luke Voit, who led the American League. Actually, I think it was the majors in homers in the truncated season of 2020, and he's going to be out probably until like June. And there's a few other injuries out there, but what this one is a big deal for is because in terms of the Yankees, right, they're head and shoulders favorite to win the American League. It's not like the National League where you have, the Dodgers. Yes, they are, but there's, the Padres and the Braves are not too far behind. And there's a lot of people who would argue the Padres and Braves maybe even are better than the Yankees. And you could say that the top 3 teams in the National League, even maybe the Mets, are in that group as well. That those teams are possibly, contenders for being the 4 best teams in the league. And then the Yankees are somewhere in that mix. What it does for the Yankees is it makes Jay Bruce their first baseman, a guy who wasn't even going to, be more than an afterthought probably as an offseason signing. He's a guy like, okay, he might contend for a roster spot. And if somebody gets COVID, maybe he'll shuttle around. But now he's their starting first baseman. What it also does, though, is it gives the grossly right-handed Yankee lineup a left-handed bat somewhere in the middle. I mean, I can't imagine he's probably going to bat, anywhere higher than 7th. But, those injuries, Jerry, we could, I said them in that order, but let's review in the reverse order there. So what do you think about Bruce in for Voit? You think it's a big effect on the Yankee lineup?
I mean, I think it is. I don't think there's that much of a difference defensively. I mean, we haven't seen too much of that. I'm really positive at first base there on defense, but we'll see. I mean, Voigt's not a Gold Glove level first baseman either, so I don't think that Bruce is going to make that much of a difference there. But it is good to have a player of that caliber who was not only you could pick him up, he was already there. So it was right at that time where they were going to have to make a roster decision about him. And for him to have already been there, had a decent enough spring, I think that they'll be okay. The team is lucky to have that kind of depth to have brought him in. I mean, and if they hadn't, they had Dietrich. So there were still some guys there to fill in. And, first base is a position that I know that there's a lot of production that they're missing from Voit, but Bruce can probably, at least for a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, how long is it until Voigt's able to come back? Hold it down, and I don't think embarrass them and either defensively or offensively. I think that'll be good enough. And like you said, Riz, he's going to hit down the lineup. And when the lineup is so right-handed anyway, you don't have to worry about where you're splitting up the righties. You split them up wherever you put them, because there's only one of the lefty in the whole lineup, and that's only when Gardner plays. When you face a righty and you get the switch hitter with Hicks. Otherwise, you can put him anywhere in the lineup. And you're right, you're probably looking at 7 and just moves everybody up 1. It's a lineup that has a lot of interchangeable spots anyway. There's a lot of guys you could hit a lot of places. They've chosen to put Hicks 3rd, and you could, there's 4 other guys you could have probably put 3rd.
Dawg, you saw Bruce with the Mets a few years back, right? And one of the things that was big with the metrics and everything today was, his numbers seemed to just kind of fall off a cliff when he wasn't keeping up with the 95 mile an hour plus pitch, which there's so many of these in the game today. Is this an albatross here now for the Yankees, or does he still have something left?
I think it's tough. I'm going to guess that he has sort of shifted more for having to guess a little bit more on the fastball versus the curveball. Bruce has always been a long ball or nothing guy. I mean, he's sort of the classic new guy, right? So the single walk homer, 3 outcome sort of stuff. And, I think he's kind of got more exaggerated with that as his career has kind of gone on. I think hitting down in the 6 or 7 hole for the Yanks, he come in. I mean, I think it's a fit in Yankee Stadium. So, he will provide good power for you. He's, a great clubhouse guy. Not a lot of average, not a lot of speed left anymore. He was in the outfield for the Mets. That was even, he was on decline at this point. So now playing in,
he looked
in the
all
infield.
right in the outfield this spring. I mean, at first base,
I must say, I didn't get a chance to see him in the spring this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but not at first base where he's playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see, right? And it's interesting, right? You always say with like first base, you're always like, well, it's kind of back to like little league, right? I mean, as long as you can catch, you can be there, right? But when you actually see him play, I mean, it's hard, and it's we'll have to see how much you can adjust to that. Sitting there facing all the lefty hitters and everything coming to the Yankees team, he's gonna get some rockets at him, and he's got to be ready for it.
It was only a spring game, but the Tigers game the other day, there were 2 on and 1 out and ground ball to first base. And if he turns that double play, if he fields the ball cleanly and makes the 3-6-3, the inning's over. He doesn't. He gets the out at first, and next guy up hits a 3-run home run.
Miguel Cabrera.
2-1 to 5-1, where they should have been out of that inning. And those are one of those little things that, a good first baseman makes the play, and you're out of the inning, and you look on the score sheet, it's like, that's not an error, but it's a 3-run play.
But we know what he is. What is he?
He's a 4.
It's a 4.
Well, we did a game the other day. I was doing the Caldwell game the other day, and we were talking about Stratomatic, and I was talking about the ratings. I was wearing my hat. I was representing. And the first baseman for the other team was a ground ball hit about 18 inches from him, and it went right by him. I said he's a 5, and I explained to everyone what that meant, and I agreed that everyone agreed, yep, that guy's a 5. And it's true. It was a ground ball. It should have been a ground ball C or a B at the worst, and instead it was a single 2 stars. So there you go.
That's not good.
So for the people who think we're speaking in code, we are. The code is Stratomatic. Go to stratomatic.com.
Okay. There you go.
And check them out.
-Matic.
Yeah, if you're into the other side, the stats part of baseball, and
if you want to learn the teams and learn the players deep, Strat is probably the best way. I know something we were doing FUV back in the day. I mean, I always grew up a Met fan. I knew Mets and the NL East and so forth. And, the Yankees from following at the AL East. But
I knew who Cecil Espy was.
You just wouldn't know these other guys. And we would sit there talking to radio like we were getting all the feeds at the time. This is the late 80s, early 90s. We weren't getting any of these feeds. But we knew all these guys. We knew all the top players. And we knew hey, he's got a cannon of an arm. He can crush a lefty, but he can't hit a righty, et cetera, et cetera. We actually sound like we knew what we were talking about.
Yeah. Do not play George Brett at shortstop.
Little shout out. Makes the play.
How did George Brett just make the play at shortstop? I don't know. You tell us, boomer.
I'll put Tris Speaker, one of the greatest center fielders ever, at first base.
Yeah.
When Jerry Milani leaves for a road trip.
Whatever it took, right?
So speaking of that, we'll do a little bumper for one of the shows that we'll have in the first week of April. Joe Lemaire will join us. He said he's going to make time for us on sporttechie.com. It's super cool site, sporttechie, sportechie.com. You also see Joe Lemaire on MLB Network. And he was one of the invitees, one of the 11, and in addition to myself, that Jerry brought into the Elite Media Experts League for Stratomatic, and he has guided his Red Sox in the 60-game season to the best record at 40-20, and then a 7-game semifinal series win over John Miller's San Francisco Giants. Yours truly guided the Cardinals, as Healy would say, to a win in the weakest division.
Soft.
Albeit by the largest margin of victory of any of the teams. So I have guided the Cardinals now into the finals because I was able to also in 7 games defeat Sweetie Murdy, the great WFAN, a longtime Yankees reporter who had the Yankees. I was able to beat the wonderful super powered Yankees in 7 games. So it's
you won it off of Mo, didn't you?
What?
Didn't you have a blown save by Mo?
Yeah. I had to beat Mo.
That got Tweety. I remember that one.
I beat him early.
That's a toughie.
You got to beat him. If you're gonna beat, if you're gonna beat the Yanks, you got to beat Mo. Okay. If you don't beat Mo, you're not beating him. Okay. Yeah, you just have to do it. So, that was a badge of honor, and we'll face off. It's been a long time. I used to watch the Stratomatic stuff. I was watching it every day, adjusting my lineups, preferences, all these things. Stratomatic 365. Man, a lot of options there. If you really want to dive in, go check it out.
1205. Dawg, did you see the results?
Yeah.
It was a couple rough weeks there. Work-wise.
Yeah. It's all right. You love
it. It's addicting.
It gives us something to talk about. Yeah, it is addicting. So so Joe will join us on an upcoming show. I don't know if it'll be the next show. We'll probably sneak in a few here since the season's starting. And once again, this stuff, this show, and a lot of these guests that you're going to hear, this stuff doesn't happen without you, Jerry. You're selfless, and you're a friend, and we bust chops all the time, but you're like a miracle worker. You're working, you got all these jobs, and you're always finding time. I hate to keep asking because you're better than, the best bookers out there, but you just keep not saying no. So I just keep asking, and Jerry's got some, good potential guests lined up for us. We've also done work on our own to get some, the ones that you've heard, sometimes have not, we haven't had to ping Jerry all the time about it, but Jerry, just a heartfelt thanks again. It's perfect that you're on the 1-year anniversary show because of that, and you're a big part of the first year, and certainly a big part of whatever the future is going to be. I'm sure you're going to be part of it, whether you like it or not.
They keep putting you back in.
Yeah. Hey, your last name ends in a vowel. What are you going to do?
Gotta do it.
Healy's last name ends in sometimes a vowel. He's like an Irishman with, Italian something.
Honorary.
Yeah, Italian mojo.
Love Ziti.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
that basically qualifies you.
That's it. Yeah.
You know.
Good.
I've seen Dawg eat an entire pizza just because. It might not have been a while ago, but it might have been a while ago. But yeah, anyway. So now the other thing on the list here that we wanted to talk about is the idea of did the Major League Baseball establishment kind of blow it by not putting more games on TV while everybody's stuck at home and there's day games going on. Why I mention it is because, as you know, based on my phone provider, if you're a Sprint or T-Mobile provider and you have this T-Mobile Tuesdays app, you can get the MLB package for free. Now, there's also some ways that, other people get it. It's, a lot of people buy it. If you can get it for free, jump on it. It's great. It's amazing. It's Jerry, I know you get it, through the Yankees, maybe through your ticket package, whatever. Dawg, you're gonna get hooked up here, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I paid for it for like 7 years until the Yankees started, or maybe more until the Yankees started doing it. My dad pays for it in Florida for the Yankees package because he lives down there now. But yeah, I mean, it's and I, normally I would be traveling 20 weeks out of the year, and I'm using it everywhere I go to watch the Yankees. Or when I'm not, I watch another game when I'm home.
But what about putting more games on TV to make it accessible? This is what we were talking about, like, pre-show. It was actually you guys were starting to have a lively discussion about that while producer Xavier and I were working on a few things behind the scenes, but we could maybe pick up that discussion a little bit here now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a function of COVID. I mean, none of the broadcasts had people in person anyway. Yes Network, I think, did maybe 12, maybe less than that. And I picked up a few more of them on like the Phillies network had done a couple games. So you could pick that up on MLB. I think maybe the Blue Jays did one. I could pick a couple of games up from the road team or the other team, opponent team, but Yes Network considerably fewer than normal. And Dawg, SNY, how many Met games were there? Just
very few on that. I actually didn't get the number on, but it was tough. And you finally got a couple towards the very end. They kind of had like 3 or 4 in the last week or so. They had, I think, Wayne Randazzo and Anthony Recker was breaking in over the weekend with that. But yeah, it was tough. And like I was saying before, I mean, I think they missed a real opportunity, particularly for the spring training games with the kids, right? And for once, you actually had baseball during the day. A lot of kids, some kids are in school, but a lot of kids are home or they're doing half days or stuff like that. Like, they're kind of around at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and some cold weather, whatever else. You had a chance to actually reach out and grab some kids that, it's always tough to build that fan base up. And we spent a lot of time talking about during the past year of how, we got to find ways to reach out and capture the kids, or, your average age of a baseball fan is just going to get older and older and older. And, I think they just missed the opportunity. I mean, there's almost no downside, in my opinion, to popping it on there. And definitely a potential benefit, at least in marketing to the rest of the kids out there.
I mean, I'm guessing it was a function of money and a function of COVID restrictions and needing to do different things to be able to have the venue be accessible for their camera people. Because again, the talent wasn't down in Florida doing the games. They were all doing them from studios back home. Every team. Now, I think Meredith Marakovitz was down, so they have one person on site. And I think that maybe the other teams also had like a field reporter who was kind of like the on-site person, but on-site also just meant doing Zooms. Like they didn't have access to players. Maybe they just felt like, I mean, to me, you could just put a camera in the press box. Exactly. Or just run a camera and just, not have do their regular broadcast, and even not run it on the air, run it on your feed. And just to have the video of the game, and then whether you have someone do commentary or not, maybe you have your secondary or third person, let them do some play-by-play. So they get to practice some play-by-play and get, some reps in on play-by-play. just a way to like see the game. I mean, Max Goodman, who's the guy from SI.com, young kid, he's been down the whole time in Tampa and traveling to the visiting games for the Yankees. And he's been the lifeline for people on his Twitter feed in just getting, video of Stanton home runs and even videos of guys just working out before the game and stuff that fans want to see that. And now, yeah, you have that, but for Yes Network and for SNY to not have kind of a regular, but what's Yes have on their network now? I mean, they have the Nets, but they're not playing every night, and they have the Yankees. I mean, and when you have a whole month, look, the month of March, other than the March Madness, isn't like a big month for people. It's a chance to get, like you said, baseball in front of people, and they didn't. But I think next year, I think you'll go back to seeing them doing 20 games on the network.
Yeah.
Yes Network. They have the Nets. They're not playing every night. There's a Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant joke in there somewhere for the basketball people. I'm not going to say it, but basically they just never play. Or one plays when he feels like, one just doesn't play. And they got
Playoffs
James Harden.
Soon. They'll be all right.
They got James Harden, who just plays a
Harden,
lot.
James Harden brings it every night.
Yeah, he does.
On defense, James Harden brings it every night.
And shout out, the best thing about the Nets is not James Harden. It's not Kyrie Irving. It's not Kevin Durant. It is.
It's our guy.
Our pal. So listen to them on radio. Okay. With that, we're past, I think we're past the hour mark, Dawg. So that means we transition to our final segment where we like to wrap it up, as Xavier Rizzo is at the ready with our jingle ahead of Diehard Dads. Oh my God. It's like seamless now. It's like seamless. He's not cracking a smile over there. I'm trying to get him to crack a smile. All right, Dawg has an update on the water bill story. So that's back from a few episodes ago. If you're a follower of the Diehard Dad segment, and you don't have to be a dad. Yeah, it
talks to you. It screams to you.
When we say it's a podcast about baseball and life, this is like the life part. Sometimes we get into it. The update, Dawg. Do we have to preface what it was before? Or do people go back and listen?
I'll work it in a little bit. We had a little discussion in the household when our water bill, we were projecting as like 1,200 gallons a day or some insane amount of water. That I was like, it's like tanker trucks showing up in your house, like you're just sucking them dry and saying, bring me another one. And so we had some discussions on water usage, and we want to be nice to the planet and everything else like that. Maybe we should show it in the shower too. And so lo and behold, some of the family would go back down to the school. In fairness, I found a leak that was outside, which contributed to it. So daddy took that little hit there too. But we got it down to like a cool 960 gallons or so a day or something like that. So we're coming off the insane levels, and we're going to see next month we're going to have full load, everyone back from school last April versus what we look like last March versus this March. So we'll do a sort of a true time over time and really identify that characteristic there. So it's trending in the right direction, fortunately for us and for the planet. And if I could actually to extend on for the new Diamond Diehards, that it was kind of fun, was listening to my oldest son talk about getting different bank accounts. So telling his buddies he's chatting on his video game thing or whatever else like that, and having his USAA account, he's got it for this, so he needs to get the local one for the ATM and stuff like that. And that was just wow, my little baby. So they're talking ATM fees and stuff. So that was pretty cool. So he's all grown up, big boy now.
Good job on that.
That's it. And Diamond Dog is around here somewhere. So she might knock everything down. So she was over here Jones in the way trying to get on the 1 year anniversary show.
So on the actual 1 year anniversary, which was Friday, March 26th. So the original episode was March 26, 2020, called Opening Day. I listened back to it the other day, and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. We've come a long way. We've come a long way. On that evening, I laced up the skates and made an appearance on the ice with the New Jersey Rockets 16U girls AA hockey team. Now, I am not a good hockey player. I can barely skate, but now I do play-by-play for the games. That's what's been great. I think I don't know if I've talked about that on Diehard Dads, but on my YouTube channel. So basically what happened with the pandemic was nobody was allowed into the rinks. Nobody. They were barely even having games. When games came back, they made a provision where one parent or somebody could go to the rink and live stream it. So I was like, okay, I know how to do that. I'm live streaming this show. I can go live stream that. I'll figure out a way to do it. But of course, in like Riz fashion, there was no way that I like wasn't going to do play-by-play. I'm like, I'm going to do play-by-play and just, I'll just try to be funny. And I have to tell you, like, it's been one of the best experiences of my life. The reaction from the parents and the girls is like so fulfilling and so rewarding. I mean, it reminded me of the days of doing Fordham basketball and, having the men and the women's teams just come up to me and tell me, oh, my grandfather was listening, my grandmother, my parents, whatever. And thank you for mentioning. And I always found a way to get them in. That was kind of like my thing. And this was like sort of that same rewarding feeling, And when we came up to this last, we had ice time, but the season was over. And coach said, hey, anybody, if you want to bring a friend to come skate or, parents want to come out. And so I told Louisa, I'm like, okay, maybe I should do it. Maybe I should suit up. And then I was like, maybe I shouldn't, whatever. And she's like, no, now you have to, because all the girls are saying that they want you out there. So I did, and I survived. And I fell on one of the girls one time. She's so fast. Like she's under me. I'm like, Jesus, what happened? I hope I don't kill you. I'm sorry. There was one time I actually had the puck, Dawg and Jerry, and I skated behind my own net. Now we only played like half ice sideways, 3-on-3 and circled people in.
Keep your head up.
I had my head up. Yeah.
I
had my head up and I circled behind. Now we weren't playing checking or anything like that because God forbid, like, oh my God, it would be,
I would have drilled them.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would have been like the greatest target ever. Like I'm just like a sitting duck. So I'm skating behind the net with the puck, and I'm looking to pass it up. I get a little pressure. I'm like, oh crap. And I'm trying to turn, which I can't, because I'm horrible. And I'm like, I start to fall in the right skate, but like the right skate goes forward. So I'm not falling like sideways. I'm falling like into a split, and the right skate goes forward. The left skate stays like behind the net, and I take the split. But 5 years of yoga, even though I haven't done much the last year, got right up. Louisa did have a funny moment that she caught too. She said, the first time I fell, I'm like, I got up and I go, hey, I got up. She actually caught that. She thought it was funny. I'm like, I was actually just proud that I got up. So, and on that play where I did the split, I completed the pass, and I did get kudos from that. Like, hey, nice. you took the fall, but you completed the pass. I'm like, it's good. And on my last shift, I got the second assist on a goal. So we did. I was like minus.
You got on the sheet.
I was like minus 18 for the rest of the night, including one shift where I was against Luisa's line there, and they scored like 3 goals. But it was good. So. I got out there. It was fun. I was a little bit better at the end than I was in the beginning. I was starting to move around. I was feeling it a little bit. Not as good as like when we used to go play with our good buddy Brad Schmidt back by where the Dawg grew up.
On the Brattle Dome.
The Brattle Dome. Schmitty's got ace. Great follower and supporter of Diamond Diehards even to this day. Schmitty, thank you. I know you're catching this, maybe not now, but at some point. So appreciate that. So I was not very good then, but I was a little more fearless, I'd say. So back then I would try to skate faster, even though I didn't know how to stop. Now I don't even want to try to like gain any speed because like I still don't know how to stop. So anyway, that was my diehard dads for the moment.
Excellent.
And I think that we're probably ready to wrap it up, unless Uncle Jerry wants to add some kind of life story as well.
No, I've been, excited just to go to the mailbox and leave my house to do that. I mean, I went on a road trip for the first time last week to Las Vegas for work, and I hadn't been in an airport or on a plane in a year. And, it just felt different. And now, here I am. I haven't shaved in 3 days since I got home because I haven't had to. So here we go.
There you go.
All right. We're going to wrap it up. Once again, fmsgraphics.com. Give them a mention. All your printing and promotional needs. A family-owned and family-run business for something like the last 50 years. Check them out. fmsgraphics.com. fmsgraphics.com. Follow us everywhere, but really especially on Twitter, because we really need you. We really, really need you. We're dying to get more Twitter followers. That bothers me.
We have a good Twitter game too. That is irksome. We put a lot of effort into Twitter.
We did get one Twitter follower during this show, by the way. We did.
Nice.
Travis Smith followed us.
Thank you, Travis.
Coach_Bear22. You just got shouted out, Coach. You know what? I want to give well wishes before we go off. Gregg Olson, the former Orioles closer, who's I've found to be a very good follower on Twitter. He just announced yesterday via Twitter that he's been diagnosed with prostate cancer. He's getting surgery in about 3 weeks. So the Diehards are sending all the good karma, prayers, and well wishes to Gregg Olson. We hope you get better soon, and maybe someday we could have Gregg with us to talk about.
You ever seen a better curveball than Gregg Olson?
Nope.
I mean, that curveball, that's a curveball.
Not me. He's made some comment to somebody last week about some of these hitting gurus, like in the whole Jeff Fry mode. Who's like the hitting gurus, the pitching gurus, whatever. And he made some comment like, yeah, these guys, some of these guys still think that, they're looking around when you tell them here, you hand them a bag of curveballs. Like, where are the curveballs? And so I tweeted back through Diehards. I'm like, it's very weird because a lot of times when you were handed a bag of balls, you made them into a bag of curveballs kind of better than everybody else. So I think, we got a good laugh out of that, hopefully. Yeah. But that's something, that he was saying. I think he's in the 50 something realm that we're in, and a lot of our demographic is in as well. And it's important to go and get regular physicals and get checked for these things, because the sooner you find some of these ailments, even though it's not what you want to hear, it's improving your chances of recovery. So Gregg Olson, we wish you the best. We wish you the best. With that, I think we'll wrap it up. At Diamond Diehards everywhere, but like especially Twitter. If you're watching us on the Facebook group or the Facebook page, and you haven't subscribed or followed us there, please do. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitch, we're everywhere. We're on YouTube. Check us out there if that's your thing. But mainly we'd like you to follow and subscribe on wherever your favorite social media outlets are. And our individual accounts also, you could follow the dog at Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8. You can follow Jerry at GB Pack Jerry, like Green Bay Packers, Jerry GB Pack Jerry. And you can follow me at Rear Naked Choke, all one word, no underscores. Yes, the original. Yes, that comes, it's not a bad word. It comes from my mixed martial arts podcasting background. That's a very popular move and a very effective one in mixed martial arts. So that's where that comes from. It's not, it just has the word naked in it. It doesn't mean anything. Okay. Don't worry about it. So that will do it for Jerry Milani and the dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the 1 year anniversary show. That will do it. Diamond Diehards, after 1 year, is out.